Hello and welcome back to another episode of Weekly Waypoint. Today we are back in Mario Kart DS, where if you remember my last Weekly Waypoint in this game, you may realise that I have managed to capture my legal DS in a better way. I have managed to bring you Crisp Yoshi, as we are now rendering the gameplay at an upscaled, shall we say, resolution, or texture quality, or I don't know what we're calling this. But let's just say I've got a very handy-dandy capture card and leave it at that. Now, of course, it's not perfect, and it could still be better, but I didn't want to risk slowdown, because, of course, the more power we put into this thing, the more we risk slowdown. And when you are using a capture card to capture DS gameplay, it doesn't always run at a kind of performance you might expect for the machine that it is running on. So, I don't know, I might experiment some more next week. Like I say, I can pump it a bit higher, but for now, I'm pretty pleased with where we are, especially compared to last time. If you want to go back through the playlist and just see what it looked like when I recorded this last time, oof, it was an eyesore. We've also gotten rid of the black borders around the edge as well, so now using OBS, as me and Reese figured stuff out for our Dimension Jam stream the other day, figured out how to kind of, capture specific areas of windows and therefore create different layers of different captures of the same window and also have a background. And it's a very temporary background. What you're actually seeing is the very corner of one of my Final Fantasy XIV screenshots, but that's not important. What's important is we're going through every single Mario Kart DS track, because before I cherry-picked my favourite ones, and I feel like that wasn't really a comprehensive playthrough, and also I love this game so much, it's always good to have a reason to go back and play through it again, so that's what we're doing here today. I actually had a little bit of difficulty performing the snake drifting method, where you're constantly drifting to the left to get the boost and to the right to get to the boost. I feel like on DS back in the day, I mastered that shit, but here, because I've got left and right mapped to an analog stick on my special legal DS, it's harder because you have to go to extremes to get the wiggle to work, so maybe I can change that next time as well, but I don't know, I feel like it added a little bit more challenge. So I feel like the one problem with Mario Kart DS is it can be a little bit too easy. Anyway, this week I want to take a quick break from talking about what's going on with me to talk about what's going on with gaming as a whole, because E3 unofficial has kind of kicked off. Are they calling it Summer Games Fest again? Are they doing that? Is Jeff Keighley gone, hey, can you call it Summer Games Fest? Because that's what he sounds like, and everyone else has gone, yeah, alright, we'll do that, because everyone's Cockney now. But I do not own a PS5, I am not a PS5 haver, and therefore I have not watched the PlayStation 5 conference. But what I did do is skim read an article about everything which was announced within the conference. It's not a conference, it's a PlayStation showcase? Direct? Do they call it a direct? State of play. Normally I like to watch through these things, but ever since I've fallen off the PlayStation bandwagon, I've just taken to not watching the PlayStation stuff, just reading about it. And I gotta say, I was reading through the article, I was like, hey, this is actually pretty cool. And then I went and watched the gameplay for Spider-Man 2. So for those of you who don't remember, I had a PS4, I was a PS4 guy, and then I was an Xbox Series S guy. And I have not played Miles Morales, but I have played the original Spider-Man, and I love it very dearly. I'm very proud of Insomniac for it, and it's one of my favourite Spider-Man universes ever depicted, alongside the Ultimate Spider-Man. It's just so good, and I love the way, especially with Spider-Man 2, they are taking existing story elements from the comics and remixing them with other story elements from the comics. The easiest example being that this time around we're getting Venom Suit Spider-Man, obviously the Venom symbiote corrupting Peter Parker and making him into a darker version of himself, which is a fun modern interpretation that we're quite used to at this point, because in the original comics that didn't really happen. But what they're doing is they're using that and plugging it into the modern dynamic of the Peter Parker Miles Morales, teacher-student dynamic thing that they've got going on. And I think that's fucking perfect, because what better way to have Miles learn, to gain some level of independence and making judgment calls for himself than realizing that something is going on with Peter Parker and helping him out in that direction. I think if they pull that off right, and I think they will pull that off right because they're Insomniac and they're some sexy fucking developers, Was that a bit overboard? I think they'll do it right. Sorry, you have to understand, I'm a big Spyro the Dragon fan, I'm a huge Ratchet and Clank fan, I'm a big Spider-Man fan, and like, I just love Insomniac to pieces. I mean, you know, I've heard that they have their issues. There was a lot of crunch culture around the original Ratchet and Clank games, and they've had some other issues since, you know. I don't want to bury that, but just like in terms of the games they put out and the prowess at which they develop, I adore them, and I do hope things are better there, because I heard some stuff about Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart development. There was some ideas that kind of got thrown away for silly reasons, and I don't know, it's a whole thing. I don't know enough about it to talk fully about it. You'll have to seek that stuff out if you want, because I don't trust myself to do it justice, but I don't think it was... I don't even really remember much about it. I just remember being disappointed when I read it. But I don't think it was like a disgusting level of controversial. We're not like Blizzard level controversial, but we're like, okay, that was kind of a dick thing to do, kind of controversial level. Anyway, moving on from that. The other trailer I watched was Assassin's Creed Mirage, and oh my god, if this isn't a spiritual remake of the original Assassin's Creed, I don't know what is. Like, I know they said they were going for like the original, you know, quote-unquote traditional Assassin's Creed gameplay, so pre-Origins, and I love both, and I'm glad that they're doing both. I'm eating well here, but just like, obviously it's a different setting, a different historical setting, and I believe a different geographical setting, but just the general world design and the general aesthetic, it just takes me back to Assassin's Creed 1 in a really cool way. It's like someone at Ubisoft said, we should remake Assassin's Creed 1, and someone else said, let's be more original and spiritually remake it while pushing forward a new narrative and some new ideas. And I hope that's what happened, because it looks like that's what happened, and I want to play that game. That being said, it is also a spin-off of Valhalla, which I have sunk maybe 15 hours into and have not touched for like 2 to 3 years, so maybe I should go back and finish Valhalla before I do that. But again, it wouldn't be the first time I have a major gap in my Assassin's Creed play knowledge. I really need to play Assassin's Creed free through Syndicate, but I'm probably just going to do my 4th playthrough of Assassin's Creed 2 instead, I'm sorry. I do own them all on Xbox at this point, because Ubisoft sales, this shit goes for pennies, and I'm a sucker for being like, ooh, I'll pick that up now and play it later, which I'm getting better at stopping myself from doing. Anyway, those were the 2 things from the PlayStation Showcase I wanted to pick out and go, wow, about. So there you go, there you have it. They're doing other stuff too. I'm sure it's probably exciting for other people. Hey, here's an idea. Let me know in a comment if there's something from the PlayStation State of Play that you enjoyed and want to tell me about. Don't have to, but it's an option that's available to you. If you're wondering why this episode is full of beans, it's because I drank a whole Lucozade 900ml bottle before recording. That was probably a bad idea. Anyway, oh my god, let's look ahead to the next week or two. So we've got pretty much every other conference coming up. Luckily, I feel like they're still a couple of weeks away mostly. I know the Xbox One is for sure a couple of weeks away, because I want to have time to play Diablo 4, because this time next week I finally pre-ordered. Having played 2 rounds of beta, it's one of the less gross pre-orders I've felt myself doing, because I have some semblance of what the game's going to be like. I've heavily researched what the monetization is going to be like, and, you know, maybe trusting Blizzard to keep their promise on monetization is a bit of a fool's errand at this point, but it's Diablo. So I pre-ordered the Digital Deluxe Edition, because I apparently do not enjoy owning money. And my god, that thing is £20 more than the regular edition. The regular edition is £70. The Digital Deluxe is £90. I don't know what the Ultimate is, but here's an aside. They keep saying in all of their marketing material, pre-purchase Ultimate Edition to get early access. And here's the thing. You don't need Ultimate Edition for early access. You need Digital Deluxe Edition, which is cheaper. And Ultimate Edition only gives you an emote and a Battle Pass accelerant. And personally, I don't think that's worth it. But I'm quite thankful that it's not worth it, because, I mean, it already feels like I'm paying for 2 tiers higher instead of 1 tier higher at this point. But anyway, yes, after shelling out half of my life savings to pay for Diablo 4, digital deluxe edition. I have it, I own it, and I can play it, and this time next week I will have been playing it, and it's all I can think about. It's been a while since I've been this excited for a new video game. I'm trying to remember what the last one would have been, because as excited as I am for WoW expansions and shit historically, it's getting less and less these days, and while I was excited for Dragonflight, I think I dedicated a few episodes of the Weekly Waypoint to it even. I'll have to go back and listen to see if I was really this excited about Dragonflight. Oh, speaking of upcoming expansions though, Necrom is coming out in about a month on Xbox. I feel like ZOS, that's ZeniMax Online Studios to the uninitiated, I feel like ZOS forget sometimes that they release the console versions later, because someone mentioned that they do this event, right? They do this event called 𝕬𝕬𝕚𝕚 Mayhem. It's a PvP event, and someone was like, apparently it's scheduled for late June, but you know what else is scheduled for late June? That's right, the new chapter or expansion. And on their login screen right now, they're like, pre-purchase now and get rewards when it launches on June 5th. And I'm like, guys, June 5th is the PC launch, but this is a specifically console message. How did you get this wrong? Unless, like, you get the rewards on the PC launch. That's weird, though. But anyway, Necrom is the most excited I feel like I've been for ESO in a while. I'm going to have to say I feel like, because I forget how hype I get about certain things sometimes, and I forget how I feel about certain games sometimes, because I feel like there have been episodes where I've talked about ESO and I've been like, oh, I've never been this excited about this ESO story, and I'm having a great time, and it's gripped me from the start. This is what I did in High Isle. I had clips where I was like, wow, this story is doing what no other ESO story does. It's gripping me from the start. And then when I finished the ESO High Isle story recently, because I always seem to take massive breaks in the middle of these main storylines, I looked back and I went, the problem is the first half of these things is always so boring, it never grips me. And then I heard that clip of me saying it was gripping me from the very start after I said that, and I was like, I guess I'm misremembering how much I enjoyed it at the start. I guess this is why game reviewers usually play through a game start to finish and then review it, and don't just leave a 9-month gap in the middle of their playthrough sessions. Gimme an A, gimme a D, gimme a H, gimme a D. Gimme a D. And anyway, did I talk about High Isle last week? Did I finish it last week? I finished High Isle last week. It was fine. It was fun. It was much better than the Blackwood and Deadlands chapter. That was that was. Oh, we've talked about that in previous videos. It wasn't terrible. It was just so unoriginal. Anyway, we've talked about it to death. I did talk about this last week. But yeah, Necrom looks super cool. I'm really looking forward to playing the Arcanist. I'm super deep into ESO right now. As I've already mentioned, I'm really enjoying the MMO aspects. Lately, I've just been going through and, like, you know, you get... Obviously, a lot of MMOs do this. You get like a daily dungeon where you get like boosted rewards per character. So I've just been going on different characters and doing a dungeon a day on them. And I've been doing Antiquities, and I've been doing my Black Sacraments on my Dark Brotherhood character. And I've been... What else have I been doing? I've just been questing and just generally having a good time. And that's what you want to do in a video game, isn't it? You want to have a good time playing a video game. That's what we like to do. I've been a little bit all over the place this week in terms of other games I've played, probably because Diablo 4 is coming out soon, and my brain goes, want to play Diablo 4? And I go, can't play Diablo 4, and my brain goes, want to play Diablo 4, and so I have to find something to fill the gap. I re-downloaded Immortals Phoenix Rising. Actually, before I did that, I played Immortals Phoenix Rising through the cloud, and I don't know if they've improved the cloud or if my internet connection has just improved, but the cloud is a goddamn viable way of playing video games for me right now, and that's kind of exciting. But of course it's not better than having the game installed, so I still installed the game, but at this point it's more visual than input, you know? Like, the bigger thing with cloud gaming was, like, there's some input lag that's noticeable, and it makes playing games feel weird, and maybe it's still noticeable for some people who are more sensitive to those kinds of things, but for me, I can forget I'm playing a cloud game in terms of input lag at this point. What normally gets me to download the game instead is it does look more, I don't want to say bitrate-y, but it's definitely like the difference between watching a show on Netflix and owning it on physical hardware, you know? Like, it's fine watching it on Netflix, but you know it could look better. Anyway, I ended up re-downloading it and I forgot how fucking good that game is. But I guess the reason I ended up playing Immortals Fenyx Rising in the first place is because, as you've probably seen on this channel, I also played Breath of the Wild this week. And I'm having a great time in Breath of the Wild, and as usual I did that thing where I charge my Nintendo Switch, turn it on and go, I forgot I like my Nintendo Switch, and now I'm happy because my Nintendo Switch is back in my life. But no, Breath of the Wild is a fantastic game, and I'm really excited to be starting fresh in it and doing a video series in it. Of course, Tears of the Kingdom is out, and people keep saying that Tears of the Kingdom makes Breath of the Wild look simple and it's hard to go back, which is kind of astonishing to me, because when Breath of the Wild came out, all anyone could talk about was how revolutionary it is for RPGs, like open world RPGs and stuff. And to hear people talk about Breath of the Wild now as if it's like, oh yeah, you know, that old game, it's like really? So that's another reason why I want to finish Breath of the Wild before moving on to Tears of the Kingdom. The other reason is money. But also, even as I'm enjoying Breath of the Wild, I'm just not that hyped about Tears of the Kingdom still. I'm like, I can see everyone having fun with it, but I'm like, yeah, but it looks more sandboxy, Gary's moddy. Like, I'm sure the actual gameplay stuff is still there, but because everyone's so focused on like the sandbox nature of the game, I'm just kind of sat here like, I kind of just want to have an adventure though. I don't just want to spend the entire time making machines. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about surface level Tears of the Kingdom. And I know anyone who's played Tears of the Kingdom is probably yelling at their screen right now like, it's the best game ever made, what the hell are you talking about? I don't know, I've not played it. Leave me alone. But that's not all. I've tried to get back into Diablo 3, but I just can't. I'm just like, it's not Diablo 4. Been playing some more Trackmania. Just lots of bits and bobs and little games. There was a Diablo-like that was released on Game Pass, and I played about 2 minutes of it and went, nah. Speaking of Diablo-likes that aren't going to fill the hole, I don't know why I said fill the hole like that. I'm going to play some Cat Quest as soon as I'm done recording this, because I forgot I own Cat Quest. I'm like, hey, that's a fun game to get achievements in, and it's a little bit Diablo-y. Like, very light Diablo, but you know what I mean. And finally, to give an update on writing, because I have spent the last 2 weekly waypoints talking about writing, and I think people have enjoyed that, because they've been tuning in for those kind of writer-based titles. I haven't done much this week, if I'm being perfectly honest. I don't think I've actually touched it this week, like any of it, but it's still like going around in my head. I'm still thinking about like the different worlds, the different things that could take place. Actually, I did plot out a short story which I might write for next month that's going to take place within this world. That's going to kind of introduce the whole... I haven't really talked about it here, but I'm kind of doing Angels and Demons, but I don't want it to just be Angels good, Demons bad. I kind of want to make it more nuanced than that, and it's going to kind of introduce that nuance as the first short story in that universe. So I'm excited to write it. At the minute, I've kind of been giving myself a little writing break, and also I have other writing projects outside the universe I kind of want to pursue. I want to try and make something out of emergent narrative coming from Hardcore WoW when that comes out. I want to like try and fictionalize like an in-universe short story thing about that, but that's a future project. Anyway, thank you for watching.